Hello and welcome back to Mac at the Movies. Today I'm going to review for you the 2019 film from A24 Productions, The Lighthouse. This was directed by Robert Eggers, who also directed The Witch. This is his sophomore directorial feature. It stars both Robert Pattinson as Thomas Howard and Willem Dafoe as Thomas Wake. Now, through this review, I will refer to them as I do believe the crew did on set as young and old. Pattinson being young and Dafoe being old. So I will refer to them as that throughout this review. This film, it was set in the 1890s, and what I really liked about it was the equipment that they used, like lenses, things like that, to get the film's effect. This is shot in black and white at a I don't know aspect ratios, but it's essentially close to aspect ratio for, the old tube television. So it's not widescreen by any means. This film is about two lighthouse workers that are going to this remote location, an island, to work at a lighthouse for 4 weeks. And while they're there, things start to happen. This is a horror drama. So, I mean, these two individuals, they're already a little unhinged when you see them in the beginning of the film. And then it just kind of goes from there. As a film in its entirety, I don't think there's any special or hidden meaning behind it, or some paradoxical idea of what something is supposed to mean or refer to. I think the film is literally two people on an island going stir crazy with one another because they don't like each other. I think that's pretty much it. Some weird things do happen, but I think that also goes into play with the time and the sort of story behind this, because in the late 1800s you're going to have like these lighthouse workers, seamen that are out there in the ocean all the time. They have these myths and these things that they used to believe in, and I think all this is just sort of in their heads. Whenever you see a mermaid or anything like that, it's all myth, it's all legend, and it's them personifying their beliefs. Other than that, I don't think it's a film that has any direct hidden meaning. I think it's just plain simple and to the point. Two people stuck on an island, and they go crazy because they have nothing. They don't like each other, and frankly, I think Willem Dafoe's character, Old, I think he is just an 1890s troll. I think he just finds pleasure in annoying somebody else. But this film does have a very kind of like a cross between Ingmar Bergman and David Lynch kind of vibe. But I don't think it's as, Lynchian as David Lynch. But I do kind of see those aspects pulled from, those styles of film for this one. I really like that they used a 1930s camera lens that they got from Panavision, I do believe. And they wanted to use something that old because they were shooting it in black and white, and they wanted a lens to complement that, the filming. And I feel you get that with it. Another thing that the director of photography used for this film is he used a blue filter. So when it shot it, it would negate a lot of the reds that you would get with the black and white. So they would come out as darker blues. And when you saw this recorded in the image, it was it would, like blood vessels, things like that would pop out more dark, and you would get more of a grain structure with wrinkles, and just, it looked grittier, it looked more real. And from a black and white film, and it looked like essentially a movie like, from the 30s. I mean, a lot cleaner, of course, but it definitely had that feel to it. So this movie is set at a lighthouse, and the entire film you have this soundtrack of a foghorn that just comes and goes in the back. It drives you crazy just throughout the film, so you have to think about what these people who are there have to experience, this constant foghorn. So I'm sure that adds to the irritation and just the overall overwhelming crazy that they're finding with one another. Young, you see him, he comes into the movie, and you're introduced to Old's character by, the sound of urine in a pot. So, he's going to the bathroom right next to the bed that Young's sleeping in. And then the first time you see Old is his butt enters the screen and he farts in Young's face. So that's pretty much the movie for Young. I mean, he's constantly dealing with his just disgusting behavior of Old, and it's just one thing that constantly chisels away at the person he is and trying to be. You see films, like I said, in this film, there are a lot of myths and legends that they believe, and one of the things is seagulls. And you're not supposed to kill a seagull because a seagull is essentially the soul of a past seaman, and a past seaman who has met their maker, I believe is the quote. So I think in this film, essentially the role of the seagull initially is a warning role, and it's to Young seen more of an annoyance, which you later see with him bashing of the seagull. I think it's pretty much just that. I mean, later you see, the seagulls at the end of the film eating Young, and I think that's just goes back to, thoughts of, myths, and I do believe it was mentioned that was sort of a throwback to some Greek mythologies with Zeus, and a seagull it wasn't Zeus, it was another Greek legend, but that a seagull would eat the organs of this particular being, I suppose as a form of punishment, and then each day his organs would regenerate and the seagulls would come back to eat yet again. So you see throughout the film, Young is trying to find out more that he can and be more involved with the lighthouse, and it's something I understand. Whenever somebody finds themselves in a position, they want to escalate to the next level of what they're capable of doing, and especially if it interests them. I remember working at a movie theater, and projection always interested me. I was lucky that at the time I had a manager that, saw that sort of drive to want to go to the next thing and the next thing. And, eventually I ran projectors and loved it. So I can see where the interest of wanting to know more about the lighthouse and just become that much more involved with that for, the more you know, the more you can do in the future, things like that. Old really, it's he has sort of an old man's mentality, like, this is my job, you stay away from it. You just keep doing your work, mopping floors, doing what it is you have to do. Which Young doesn't like. You constantly get this back and forth between Young and Old, where he eggs him on to drink and he doesn't want to, and then eventually he does, but it turns into it's just the entire film. It just seems like Old is really picking on Young, and not in a very like kind-hearted way. Like he's just trying to get him to pay his dues. Because later you see him with like a log of what Young didn't do. He was being disobedient. He was drinking. He was being a mess. This, that, and the other. And he was doing everything he was told to do. So I think it's just one of those situations where it was two people in the entire film. They were just butting heads, and it just kept going and kept going. I think Old had a different mentality, and so he just continued through the film accordingly. There are scenes where they open up with one another, and they become more friendly with one another. At one point in time, Young introduces that his name is Winslow, and there's kind of this realization that he isn't who he says he is. It doesn't really expand on that in the film, other than Old sort of, throws in an idea that he killed this man named Winslow and took his place. What I think it could be, honestly, it's either that or the man Winslow that was supposed to, or the Thomas Howard, who was supposed to be taking this trip, doing this lighthouse work, had either died, and Winslow found that he could use this as an opportunity to change his life, or Winslow killed Howard, and now we're in this situation and he's trying to better his life in the process. But we find that out. Old tries to use that against him. Essentially, in the end, Old and Young, Young's trying to get off the island. It feels like Old has been misrepresenting time and different aspects, just really messing with Young, and it seems like he had missed the trip back, and it was probably Old's doing. Again, we don't know that. It could all have been in the 4 weeks time, and they just, in that 4 weeks, became delusional enough and just fed up with one another that you got to these points. At one point in time, Young tries to get in a boat and leave on his own, and Old comes out with an axe and hacks up the boat. Doesn't want him to leave. Don't know if that's because he's trying to save him or what. And then later you find that Old accuses Young of being the one who did the hacking of the boat. So it throws back to that yet again. So I think it's just two people that got so stir crazy on this island that that's just what it was. Again, in the film, you see, there's like a monster creature in the lighthouse. So it leaves something to believe that there's something greater in the lighthouse, some beast or monster, something that Old is hiding, or that he sort of treats as like a totem or something like that. Like you know, he doesn't want him into the lighthouse because he doesn't want to introduce something that he has. Maybe something like, you know, Gollum in Lord of the Rings, like he has his precious and he doesn't want to share it with anyone else. So, you know, I think that just kind of lends to the idea of myth in the film. I don't believe that there is any creature. I think it's just all in the head. And, you know, eventually the film comes to an end with the two of them, you know, fighting it out, and young kills old. So he makes his way up to the top of the lighthouse, and you see that his face is covered in blood, and he looks into the light. He opens the lens of the lighthouse, and you see it's like he puts his hand into the torch, like the gas flame, and I don't know if it's just he's so involved in his head or what that is, or if that even happens. You see at that point when all that happens, it's a very Lynchian scene, and he falls through the floor, breaks his legs, and then he goes rolling down the stairs. The film ends with him being on the beach, sans clothes, and seagulls are eating his organs, like that old Zeus myth. I don't think that really pertains to anything. I think it just adds more question to what the end of the film's supposed to be. And again, I don't think it's much of anything. I think he wound up on the beach, and, you know, I don't know if it's, you know, you see through the film that, like, there are nor'easter winds and like hurricanes, things like that coming through. However that works, I don't know the concept of northeast storms and hurricanes and all that. I'm sure it's very cold and the time of year it is, but I do know, because you see him, he's found on the beach at the end of the film, no clothes, and the birds are eating him. I do know that when people freeze to death, it was discussed in Fargo, I think it was, the series, maybe, or it was possibly the movie, that when people freeze to death, they're usually found with no clothes on because the body tricks the mind into thinking that the body's overheating. And so they'll take the clothes off, and that's one of the reasons in most, well, not in most cases, but usually somebody completely freezes to death, you know, they have no clothes on and, you know, no way to keep warm. Not that in certain conditions, clothes, no clothes, whatever, it wouldn't matter. But, so I don't know if that has something to do with how that film ended. All in all, it's a good movie. I would rewatch it. So, I'd definitely give it a 3 stars. I'm eager to see this director's future work. I really love The Witch. I enjoyed this. I will revisit it. I think more so just because I find it to be a stunning film. I do enjoy black and white. And this is just a beautiful example of how, you know, somebody can have an idea of how to make something as simple as just using black and white film to make it pop, and, you know, just look at whatever options you have to utilize at that given time to really bring out the best quality in what you're trying to produce. So definitely give this 3 out of 5 stars. Check it out. It's definitely worth that just for the cinematography alone. It's a beautiful film. I do know it's real hit or miss on many people's radar. A lot of people hate it. They thought it was just stupid or gross or disgusting, which in, many cases it was gross and disgusting. But it's visually a stunning film. It's beautiful. So if that's something that you look for in film, it's wonderful. Also, the soundtrack really kind of, I believe they tried to mix the soundtrack and the soundscape, so it all just kind of flowed together, kind of like the ocean. So, I mean, down to when you first see Willem and Robert come into the movie, you see the boat coming in, you see like the percussive beat of the wave in the front of the ship, and it's, I mean, everything down to every little bit, it just kind of intermingles, and I like that. So, definitely check this one out. If you liked it, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. If you hated it, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, let you know when I have new videos coming for you. And check out my Facebook. Put the link down in the description below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, y'all be good to one another and see what new movies we have to review for you. Thanks for stopping by.